My brother stole my phone on a Sunday, swiped right on a stranger, and set a date for me without asking. I was a rent-stretched tenant in Chicago, more cautious than brave, still healing from a breakup I never named aloud. Do I cancel and protect my pride or show up and admit the truth? He'd messaged sweet things I hadn't said. If I told the guy, would it ruin everything or open a door I didn't realize I'd been knocking? If this story moves you, please like, subscribe, and comment kindly about the moral crossroads and love that followed below. I lived on the third floor of a brick walk-up in Logan Square, a tenant with a thrift store couch and a plant that leaned toward the morning window. Rent was due on the first, always. I measured time by checks dropped in the slot downstairs and by trains rattling past after midnight. On the Sunday, my brother decided to play Cupid without permission. I'd been sorting receipts at the small kitchen table, balancing coffee, spreadsheets, and a nervous heart that still flinched when my ex's name appeared in old photos. Chicago's snowmelt tracked in made silver commas on the linoleum. My younger brother Max breezed in wearing his old varsity jacket, bringing a burst of cold air and a careless grin I recognized from childhood. He made a show of hanging the jacket carefully, like it was breakable, then immediately reached for my mug. "You never drink this strong," he said, taking a sip anyway. We'd promised to look out for each other after Dad downsized and moved out of state. He took that promise literally, which sometimes meant meddling with the kind of optimism only a little brother manages. It's sweet, infuriating, and wrapped in good intentions and love. At that point, dating apps were like dusty books on my shelf, present but unopened. I hadn't deleted them after the breakup, yet I avoided the flood of profiles, the pushy messages, the way conversations chased themselves into dead ends. Max asked me gently if I felt lonely. "Sometimes," I said. "Not enough to break my own heart again." He nodded, then started washing my dishes as if a chore could solve an ache. I didn't see him lift my phone from the table next to the rent envelope. It glowed quietly, patient, like a lighthouse I ignored that night. While I scrubbed the coffee ring off the counter, Max disappeared into the hallway with my phone, his footsteps soft. When he returned, he wore his poker face, the one from Thanksgiving charades when he beat us all. "Don't be mad," he said. "I just updated your profile. You're terrific. People should know." I stared at him, slow to understand, and then the app dinged from somewhere near his pocket. He'd matched me with someone named Noah, and then, unbelievably, he had set a date at Lou's Diner. He texted heart emojis I would never type with straight face myself. I felt 12 and 32 at the same time, humiliated and weirdly relieved. My phone, freshly returned, chimed with Noah's message that read, "Looking forward to meeting you. I like your smile." That wasn't my smile in the photos exactly, more like Max's angle and optimism. I scrolled the exchange Max started, his cheerful sincerity so unlike my careful sentences. There was a date on Thursday at 7. I could cancel. I could go. I could tell the truth, which sometimes is the hardest thing to plan. I set my phone down, listened to the radiator hiss, and breathed slowly. Max apologized with the shamelessness of someone who knows he's forgiven. "If you hate it, I'll call and pretend to be you canceling," he said. "I will do it in a very convincing voice." I almost smiled. He was my brother, the kid who traded his Halloween Snickers for my peanut-free Kit Kats because he remembered my allergy. He wanted me happy. He also wanted a story he could tell at barbecues. "I'll decide," I said. "But thank you for reminding me I haven't forgotten how to hope." His grin softened, and he washed another plate without looking at me. I didn't sleep well that week. Every evening I told myself I would cancel, and every morning I woke with a small thrill I didn't trust. The days slid forward with work at the library branch, returning books, helping a grandfather print boarding passes, and directing kids to the graphic novels. Life steadied me. The date was Thursday, and as it approached, I realized honesty would be less cruel than ghosting. I messaged Noah and confirmed Lou's at 7, my stomach doing cartwheels like the blue line rounding the curve. Outside, slush softened into puddles under a reluctant spring sun. Thursday came with a clear sky and a wind that made my eyes water as I crossed Milwaukee Avenue. Lou's Diner had the silver glint of the trains and the warm smell of pancakes. I arrived early because punctuality is a kindness I understand. I sat in a booth facing the door, hands flat on the formica. When Noah walked in, taller than his photos, plaid shirt under a peacoat, a calmness walked in with him. He looked around, met my eyes, and smiled like he recognized something worth waiting for. He waved once, then slid into the seat across. "Hi, Alex?" he asked, voice low and steady. I nodded, suddenly grateful for water. "Hi, Noah." We ordered coffee and eggs, a safe way to start. Before the plates arrived, I took a breath that felt like standing at the edge of a pool. "I need to tell you something," I said. "My brother grabbed my phone and wrote part of our messages. I didn't want to start this way. I'm sorry." I waited for him to leave or laugh or something. He leaned back, thinking carefully, then nodded slowly. "Thanks for telling me before it spiraled," he said softly. He told me someone had once used another person's photos to woo him, and it had left a bruise that didn't fade quickly. "But this is different," he added. "You're here. You told me. So we start with honesty now." The relief was almost dizzying. I promised I would keep being honest, and he promised to ask if something felt off. Our plates arrived, hot and comforting. We talked about practical things, work schedules, favorite breakfast foods, the best route to the lake, like people who had decided to keep walking together. I noticed his hands were careful, even when folding napkins. Noah worked as a physical therapist at a rehab clinic near the hospital, helping people relearn steps after surgeries or falls. He described it like being a good map. You don't walk for someone, you show them the path and cheer. I told him I worked at the Logan Square branch library, where my job was part traffic control, part treasure hunt. He laughed at that and said, "You're a map, too." We ate, we breathed, we watched sunlight move across the booth like slow applause, and something unclenched inside me. He didn't rush silence. He made room for it. After breakfast, we walked along the boulevard where the snow was receding into graying piles, and the bare trees tried on the idea of leaves. Noah kept pace with me without crowding, his shoulder just near enough to feel like a promise. I told him I liked old black and white movies, and he confessed a weakness for baking shows. We laughed about plot twists and bread proofing. At the train, we stopped. "I'd like to see you again," he said. I said yes, then surprised myself by asking, "Can we take it slow?" He nodded, patient as a steady metronome there. Work filled the next couple of days, the library clicking forward with its small, persistent kindnesses. A woman asked me where we kept the knitting books, and an older gentleman told me he used to live on the corner before the rents went wild. I nodded, feeling the tug of that shared worry. Being a tenant meant loving a place and negotiating with its costs, with its creaks, with your own stubborn hopes. I took an extra shift to ease the month. Noah texted simple messages. "Thinking of you. Thursday again?" My reply was yes, before doubt could reopen everything. We met at the farmer's market on the square, early, with coffee in hand and tentative joy. Vendors sold honey and mushrooms and small bouquets wrapped in brown paper. Noah picked up an apple, turned it like a jewel, and handed it to me. "Crisp test," he said. We bit at the same time and laughed at our identical faces. He bought onions. I bought bread. It felt ordinary and somehow extraordinary. We walked the booths, shared sample cheese, and made a plan to cook dinner together without overthinking what that meant. He brushed my sleeve, asking permission with touch. At my apartment, I decluttered like a person expecting a visit from a kind judge. I wiped the counters twice and straightened the framed postcard above the sink, the one of the Art Institute lions in winter scarves. The radiator hissed like a friendly cat. When Noah arrived, he paused in the doorway. "You have good light," he said, as if light were a compliment. I told him I was still learning to be a person after a hard goodbye. He listened, leaning against the door jamb, not asking for more than I offered. That restraint felt like a beginning itself. We chopped onions, cried a little, and laughed at how easily tears can be about more than dinner. Noah kept checking if I liked the music volume, if I wanted more pepper, if he could move a pan. Consent in small things builds pathways for bigger things. I felt that truth in the way my shoulders lowered. We ate on the couch, knees aligned, with the window cracked to listen to the city. He left by 10 because we'd agreed on slow, and he kissed my cheek like a promise kept. My heart answered yes without outrunning my breath yet. Max wanted updates, of course. We met at a cheap taco place near the train, and he looked younger under the fluorescent lights, worried he'd broken something. "Is he nice?" he asked. "He seems nice." I told him Noah was patient and direct and that he liked baking shows. Max laughed so loudly the cashier smiled. Then he leaned, serious. "I wanted to push you because you deserve good." I told him I knew. "But no more phone hijacks," I added. We shook on it. Boundaries can be a kind of love. He promised, hand over heart, eyes finally relieved. Noah and I started texting in the pauses of the day, between shelving returns, between his therapy sessions, small notes that anchored us. He sent a photo of a patient's knitted scarf, with permission, and I sent a snapshot of the library's lucky fern by the window. We planned a Saturday walk on the 606 trail where old tracks had become a ribbon of green. Wind tugged our jackets. The city hummed below. He asked before reaching for my hand. "Yes," I said. Fingers laced, we looked like two people practicing steadiness. Some things balance better when you share the weight together. On a rainy evening, he came over with groceries and a recipe he swore by for lentil soup. We chopped carrots while thunder rolled somewhere far and comforting. The apartment felt smaller and kinder with him there. I told him I'd once loved someone who liked deciding for me, slowly, in the name of efficiency, until my yes didn't belong to me. He set the knife down and met my eyes. "Thank you for trusting me." We talked about consent like it was a blanket you share, not a rule book you police. Warm soup steamed up our glasses, laughter lingering. He asked if he could hug me. It was such a simple question, and it landed like music. "Yes," I whispered. He wrapped his arms around me with care, not claiming, just holding. The rain softened to a patter against the window, and the radiator piped its old rhythm. We stood like that long enough to memorize the comfort. When he left, he squeezed my hand and said, "Same time next week?" I said, "Sooner." It surprised me how easy that word felt in my mouth, like I'd practiced privately for months. Maybe I had, whispering yes to empty rooms. A few weeks in, Lou's Diner became our regular spot, a place where the server greeted us with a raised eyebrow and an extra napkin. We found tiny rituals, sharing the crossword, dividing the toast. Outside, spring showed up fully, and the park smelled like wet earth and possibility. As we walked, I told him about my lease, about the landlord's notice that rents might go up at renewal, about my careful budget. He listened without trying to solve it immediately. "You deserve a home that loves you back," he said, thoughtful. We made lists in our heads, not decisions yet. He met my neighbors in the hallway with that same careful warmth. Mrs. Alvarez from 3B asked him if he fixed knees and, learning he was a physical therapist, scheduled a consultation at his clinic. Noah asked if that felt okay to me, and I nodded. Boundaries can live alongside generosity. We watched the upstairs neighbor practice piano on Sunday afternoons, never quite nailing the left hand, and clapped when they finally managed. "Life is just practice with applause sprinkled in," Noah said. I rested my head on his shoulder and believed him. The hallway smelled of laundry and cumin. One afternoon, while rummaging for a cookbook, Noah found an old letter on my bookshelf, tucked between paperbacks. He didn't open it. He handed it to me, eyebrows asking. The letter was from my ex, written months after we parted, full of apologies framed as explanations, folded like a map back to a place I wasn't living anymore. I felt my face heat. "Do you want to talk about it?" Noah asked. "Maybe not now," I said. He nodded, not wounded. He made tea. We sat quietly until calm returned. His presence steadied me like a porch in windstorms. A week later, I told him about the letter and why I'd kept it. I'd wanted to understand, to convince myself there had been a lesson tucked in the pain. "I think the lesson is I don't deserve to be handled," I said. "I deserve to be asked." He nodded and then asked, "Can I hold your hand?" I laughed and said yes. We walked to the corner store for ice cream, choosing flavors by reading each other's faces. That night, I put the letter away farther, deeper, and slept well. Morning brought sun, pooled on the floorboards like blessings. My brother invited us to dinner at our aunt's house in the suburbs, where casseroles and opinions were always served hot. On the drive, Noah asked what to expect. "Loud kindness," I said. Aunt Lila greeted us with a hug and a "Lord, you're tall" for Noah, then loaded our plates with lasagna. Max watched us like a proud stage manager. When we told the story of the accidental match, Aunt Lila slapped Max's arm lightly. "Don't steal phones," she said, then winked at me. "Still, I like this ending." Noah laughed, and my shoulders unspooled in grateful relief there. That night, Max and I stood on the porch while Aunt Lila wrapped leftovers and Noah charmed the family dog. He looked at me, serious for once. "I'm sorry I did it without asking," he said. "I was scared you were hibernating." I told him I forgave him. "I also set a passcode," I added. He laughed and saluted. We agreed that good intentions still need permission. Inside, Noah scratched the dog's ears and told Aunt Lila politely he couldn't eat a fourth slice. Consent, I thought, shows itself in small refusals, too. The porch light hummed, moths circling suns. In May, my landlord posted a notice about upcoming renovations, the kind with shiny brochures and phrases like upgraded amenities. My rent might jump when the lease expired in September. I felt the air tilt. I loved my walk-up, my neighbors, the way the boulevard trees framed the sunsets, but budgets are also a kind of truth. Noah sat with me at the table, spreadsheets open. "We can look," he said, "but we don't have to rush." We opened tabs for places in Pilsen, Uptown, Edgewater, doing math like a duet. Our choices felt like bridges, not cliffs, ahead together. Over dinner at my place one night, the ceiling produced a slow leak above the stove, sighing into a pan with the patience of a metronome. I emailed the landlord respectfully, and he promised a visit the next morning. Noah helped move things out of the drip zone, placing the toaster like a delicate instrument on the chair. "You're calm," he said, watching me write the email. "Sometimes we need to ask twice," I admitted. The next day, the super came, fixed the pipe, and left a note. "Thank you for reporting. Respect can sound like that." In handwriting today, we took the Blue Line downtown on a sunny Saturday, walked the Riverwalk, and shared a pretzel the size of my head. Noah told me about his sister June, who worked nights as a nurse and needed naps like sunlight. I told him about my dad in Arizona, who mailed me postcards of desert skies. "Families are maps too," he said. Later we sat on a bench, and I said I was glad he hadn't left that first day. "Me too," he replied. His hand found mine without asking, now familiar. Some permissions grow from trust like sturdy ivy climbing. When June finally met me, she evaluated me like a triage nurse, then grinned and hugged me so tightly my ribs felt seen. "You're exactly as he described," she said, "but with better hair." We ate pancakes at a 24-hour diner and listened to her stories of night shift miracles. She asked how we handled disagreements. "We pause and check our tone," Noah answered, and I nodded. She approved like a judge with a golden stamp. Later, she texted me a photo of Noah in braces. I thanked her like a brother. Family sponsorships feel like visas across cautious borders sometimes. Summer moved in fully, with festivals and street musicians and the regular hum of a window fan at night. Noah and I tried the divvy bikes and laughed at my cautious turns. At a picnic near Montrose Harbor, we shared watermelon and watched sailboats stitch white lines across the blue. He told me he used to think love was fireworks until he learned it's more like a steady flame that doesn't scorch. I told him I used to think love didn't need planning. Now we planned and loved. It felt grown. Sunset colored our plastic plates like stained glass windows. Then came a week where his clinic ran behind and he texted me late, apologizing. I read too much into the gaps and felt my chest tighten. Old worries have a way of picking locks. Instead of folding into silence, I called. "Are we okay?" I asked. "We're okay," he said, sounding tired but warm. "I'm sorry for the marathon days. I apologize, too, for letting ghosts whisper." He exhaled, and I could hear the relief soften everything. We agreed to say when we needed reassurance. It felt like adult education. Learning steady love required practice, not magic or luck. The heat wave arrived and stretched like taffy. My building's old bricks held warmth late into the night. When the window unit faltered on a Friday, Noah showed up with a fan and a bag of popsicles. He set the fan carefully, asked about outlets, and we ate grape popsicles like kids avoiding bedtime. The city sounded louder in the heat, but inside was soft. He fell asleep leaning on my shoulder, and when he woke, he apologized. "Don't be," I said. "You're safe here." I meant it for both of us. Home, I realized, was a verb we practiced. In August, a notice slid under my door. Rent would increase by a modest amount, not the jump I feared. Relief came like a cool breeze. Still, I reworked my budget and took 2 extra Saturday shifts at the library. Noah helped me set up a simple spreadsheet that didn't make me feel like I was studying for a test. Auto pay and a cushion, he said. We'll review monthly. Being a tenant is part luck, part advocacy, and part math. I breathed easier knowing I could stay through winter without panic. Stability tastes like coffee you can finish hot today. We took a short train trip to Milwaukee for a weekend, choosing a modest bed and breakfast with quilts and a porch swing. On the train, we shared a seat and the kind of silence that doesn't ask for filling. We visited the art museum, ate custard, and walked by the lake at dusk. Noah reached for my hand and asked, "Is it okay if I kiss you?" My yes came with a laugh and a tear. The kiss tasted like custard and lake breeze and the relief of being thoroughly, respectfully known. I slept easily, dreamless, held by quiet choices together. When we returned, my neighbor from 2A told me she was moving to be closer to her daughter. "You should ask the landlord about my place," she said. "It gets morning sun." I hesitated, then emailed. A showing was set for Thursday. Noah and I walked through the empty apartment, morning light pouring across the floor like paint. The rent was a stretch, but workable if I kept my extra shifts. "No pressure," Noah said. "Just options." It felt like a gift, to make a choice from abundance, not fear or urgency. We stood smiling, imagining where the couch belonged next. I signed the new lease a week later and told the building manager I'd move upstairs at the end of the month. It felt wild to stay in the same building yet start fresh. Max arrived with boxes and jokes and a promise to lift the heavy things while I managed the fragile. "You always organize," he said. "It's your superpower." We labeled carefully. Noah measured the doorway so the couch wouldn't wedge geometrically. The day was hot, and we paced ourselves, taking water breaks like good adults who intend to last. The building sighed, approving our careful progress softly. In the middle of the move, my ex texted. The name lit the screen like a flicker I didn't want. I hadn't heard from him in months. He wrote he hoped I was well and apologized again. I stared at the words and felt the old ache knock, asking to be let in. I set the phone down. Noah, seeing my face, asked softly, "Do you need a minute?" I nodded. We stepped into the stairwell. "I'm not answering," I said. He squeezed my shoulder. "Proud of you." The ache faded like weather. We returned to boxes, lighter by choice. That first night in the new place, the morning sun auditioned on the floor and the walls like a friendly chorus. I brewed coffee and sat on the rug, feeling like a plant finally placed where it wanted. Noah knocked with bagels and that smile that arrives with patience. We ate sitting cross-legged, talking about everything and nothing. "I'm happy for you," he said, and I believed there was no hidden ledger behind the words. "Come see this," I said, and showed him how the light hit the kitchen at 9. He nodded, as if light could bless decisions made. Sometime around September, Noah sprained his wrist playing pickup basketball. He arrived at my place with a bandaged hand and a sheepish look. "I teach people to be careful," he said. "Then I jump for a rebound." I made tea, helped him open the stubborn jar of pasta sauce, and didn't make jokes until he did. He showed me his exercises and asked if I'd remind him to pace himself. "Yes," I said. I knew how to be careful with a wound. We watched a movie and kept the volume low. The room felt gentled by mutual caretaking and grace. At work, the library cut hours for a few months because of budget issues, and I felt the math tighten like a belt. I picked up a side gig teaching digital basics at the senior center on Tuesdays. The first class, I showed 6 grandmothers how to make folders and move photos, and they showed me patience with myself. Noah came by at the end with muffins for everyone, becoming an instant favorite. "You're a good team," one woman told us. On the walk home, I felt taller. Useful is beautiful. So is sharing it with someone you trust deeply. In October, the trees lit up and the afternoons smelled like apples. We carved pumpkins at Noah's place, and the apartment filled with candlelight and the soft mess of seeds. He asked if I might like to meet his mom on FaceTime and after in person during the holidays. I would, I said, surprised at how ready my yes felt. He showed me a photo of them fishing once, lines crossed, laughing. We're very unpolished, he warned. Perfect, I said. I was learning that love flourishes in unpolished places, tender and true. The pumpkins grinned like conspirators on the sill. Sometimes at night we told each other stories from childhood. I told him about the summer Max taught me to ride a bike by running beside me until I could balance alone. He told me about a winter his mom worked 2 jobs and they made snow angels under streetlights to pretend the world was lit for them. We marveled at the ways our families improvised tenderness. I lay awake once and thought, the accident brought us together, but our choices keep knitting us close. It was a comforting, steady revelation. I slept, settled as a book on shelf, finally. As fall deepened, I cooked more, soups and casseroles, and invited Noah to bring Tupperware for leftovers because care can be practical. He showed me a stretch to fix my sore shoulder from shelving returns. We planned Thanksgiving, Aunt Lila's again with extra chairs. Max started dating someone named Ben, a shy veterinarian who liked crossword puzzles, and my brother became gentler somehow, like a person finally trusting his own pace. One night, washing dishes together, Noah asked, "Do you think we'll ever live together?" I said I wanted to in time, thoughtfully. Decisions deserved chairs, sunlight, and open calendars with grace. The winter storm in December knocked the heat out for a day in my building, and we layered sweaters and brewed tea like it was a contest. The landlord responded quickly, and the heat thunked back on by evening. Still, the cold had a way of sharpening gratitude. Noah brought over a space heater and set it a safe distance from the curtains. "Permission?" he asked before adjusting my thermostat. "Please," I said. We read by lamplight under blankets. Snow fell steady outside, and inside felt brave, like a cabin we built. Together, we weathered small storms, practicing calm daily. On the anniversary of the hijacked swipe, we reserved the same booth at Lou's Diner. The server remembered us and brought coffee with a grin. "To strange beginnings," Noah toasted. "And better choices," I added. We told the story to each other again, softened by time. He reached across the table and said, "I love you." My yes this time was not a word, but a look that held a house in it. "I love you too," I said aloud. The diner clattered happily around us like witnesses winking with approval. I felt anchored, light, and exactly where needed most. We planned a visit to meet his mom 2 weeks later. Before we left, I stood in my new kitchen and looked at the sunlight on the counter, thinking about how places hold stories. Noah squeezed my shoulder and we drove through Indiana fields that unspooled like fabric. His mom, Maria, opened her door with a smile that looked like his. She brewed coffee, asked gentle questions, and made me feel like a person she'd known before I arrived. I understood why he was careful. Care often grows in careful homes. We washed dishes together, laughing at soap bubbles after. In late winter, standing by my window watching the first flurries return, I thought about the moral crossroads where this began. My brother's meddling had forced a door open, but I walked through. Noah met me there not because of a witty message or a perfect photo, but because we both chose to tell the truth. We stitched a life from small yeses, cups of coffee, held hands, careful questions, shared chores. I texted Max a thank you, and he replied with a simple heart. I changed my passcode anyway, lovingly. Love and boundaries aren't opposites. They keep harmony steady and clear. Now when I walk up the familiar stairs, the building smells like soap, coffee, and something sweet a neighbor is baking. I pause, grateful. I'm still a tenant, still paying attention to budgets and thermostats and emails that ask for repairs politely. I'm also a partner, saying yes to dinners, to road trips, to planning and pausing. Noah and I don't promise never to stumble. We promise to notice and help the other back up. We matched by accident, but we stayed by choice. That's the love that keeps choosing today. I breathe in, and I answer yes again softly.